presentation by Michael Clement Sr. entitled The Matua Song, a musico-linguistic approach to decolonizing Chamorro music history. I didn't receive Mr. Clement's bio, but I know that he is a longtime music educator with the Department of Education and has written and taught extensively on Chamorro music and its history. Several years ago, Mr. Clement received a grant from Humanities Guahan for his work on Chamorro music. So join me in welcoming Mr. Clement. Hello.
Yes, I'm unmuting.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Well, half a day, everyone, and good evening also. Yes, I apologize for not being able to organize a presentation, in slides and so forth to aid my speech. So I will just be reading it to you today. The Matua's song. In 2001, I identified this ancient Chamorro song by the incipit Hasnon Gofja. Over the course of this research, I have called it the Beetle Nut Song and now the Matua's Song. Everything points to the fact that this song was brought by the nobility, the Tuan of Sulawesi, to the Mariana Islands between 700 and 1000 CE. The song is dated to this migration and not to the earlier migration from Wallacea, which, I suggest, occurred between 2800 and 3500 years ago. The Sulawesi Tuan became the Chamorro Matua. This song may not be the only song text from Sulawesi, but it is the only ancient song that has ever been preserved in musical notation. I began researching this song 25 years ago, wondering how I could possibly find this one song amongst all of the songs in island Southeast Asia. By 2003, I made a recording of the melody using the musical bow, Belambatudzin, the jaws harp, Belambalpatsuk, and a synthesizer. And I presented it to an international music conference in Fuzhou, China. By then, I had at least determined that it sounded Indonesian. But this presentation is not about the tones or the written notes. It's about the lyrics and their meaning. Since then, I have invited a number of Chamorro language and culture experts to verify the meaning of the words that were preserved in Captain Freycinet's report of 1824. Freycinet was informed by missionary documents and by oral history. He took the words of the Chamorros, such as Don Luis de Torres, to be the truth. He recorded them, he reported them. Thus we have the words of the song. The song is sung by an Ulitao to his Rajau. Jeremy Cepeda figured out that Rajau is the Spanish pronunciation of the Chamorro word Ladzao, one who strolls or wanders. In this case, a girl who strolls or wanders around the Guma Ulitao or bachelor's house. Here are the words of the song. Asnon Gofja, Paluan Ho. You did this on purpose, you beautiful woman. Nyo Hosadi, Guimina Ho, sitting on my lap in front of me. Ho Suuni, Nyu Mamawan, to inflame me with your desires with a piece of beetle. Nyu Plupludzan, Zan Puguan, with the leaf of the beetle and the nut of the Olereka tree. Bijamu, Bijamu, Gemo, Gemo, that you did, at your house, at your house. Diku, Diku, Dilan Dili Ku. Those words were untranslated. The lyrics are an example of who has the power to offer beetle nut, the boy or the girl. The Ulitao sings the song, but it is the Ladzao who is offering it. Chamorro was a matrilineal clan-based culture that had one major purpose, which was to perpetuate itself. Thus, it is the girl who is tempting the boy by inflaming him with her desires. Suni or taro root is a metaphor for the boy's body part. These words set the tone and context for the song. The song describes one ritual use of betel nut. As in many other Chamorro ceremonies, it was part of the protocol for greeting a guest, of receiving a boy's mother requesting marriage, for how it was enacted to end war and signal peace, and how the deceased's betel pouch was placed on his burial mound, along with a miniature proa to sustain his soul on a voyage to visit the ancestors Puntan and Fu'una. I have categorized this song as being ceremonial, meaning that it reflects a matrilineal structure and a social foundation for betel use in Chamorro society. It was an important fabric of Chamorro belief and practice. In explanation of Diku, Diku, Dilan, Diliku, I suggest that this lyric is a window into the secret lives of the young post-pubescent Chamorro boy and girl. They are the evidence that man and womanhood began early in life, at a time when boys and girls became sexually active, and that their words and activities were kept among themselves. The words were referred to as being nonsense syllables, as Finagualafan, the language of the moon. I suggest that Diku and the other words functioned as code words for Chamorro youth. Freycinet says that they would sing this at their secret song societies and cites this society in Pago. The other song lyric Freycinet passed on was from Hodzong Akaga, or Akaga, sung by a mother telling her daughter to go out and turn herself over to the boys to enjoy as an afternoon snack. My efforts to translate the words of this song have been stymied by the word bijamu. Freycinet left the translation as that you did, but neither he or de Torres mentioned what she did. Knowing this is key to understanding the song and its Indonesian origins, period. In 2014, Raymond Quintanilla formed a committee to launch a play that he wrote, It's Gotta Be Chamorro. The song was to be the centerpiece of the production. The committee debated the meaning of that you did, but did not offer any other interpretation. From this point on, my research took a linguistic turn. It was motivated by the declaration of Austronesian linguists that they had given up trying to link Chamorro language to any other language in the Malayo-Polynesian family tree. At least in my mind, this freed me up to concentrate on Chamorro word etymologies, and I began in earnest to identify Chamorro musical and ancestral terms in Malaysia and Indonesia. The research was aimed at locating the origins of the Chamorro musical bowl, and in the process, two different linguists gave me the translation of BE or BI in Indonesian as a verbalizing prefix. I reflected on this for years, not thinking of applying it to the word in the song, bijamu. When I finally made this connection, jamu took on a different meaning, that of being herbal medicine. In Jakarta, around 700, 800 CE, the practice of jamu emerged. The upper class, the aristocratic Tuan, owned this practice. It is, in fact, immortalized in the stone wall carvings of Borobudur. The scenes are showing the Tuan receiving jamu from the servants. The herbal ingredients being ground in a isong, including the verbal ingredients, including betel nut, were ground or mashed in the isong, the Indonesian mortar, lusong, in Chamorro. In the next section, I briefly skirt around latte, Indonesian rice, fruit, dove, music, and ancestors. The origin of jamu coincided with the general time period of the second migration of Indonesian nobles and landowners to the Marianas, as indicated by the National Geographic Genome Project to track world migrations through DNA. It also coincides with the beginning of the latte period in the Marianas, circa 700 CE. And Hunter Anderson says that rice, such as that in which Chief Tago buried his daughter in the capstone of a latte stone, or that used to make the ceremonial lau, is of Indonesian origin. Next to the latte uprights and capstones in Borobudur, there is a carved image of the fruit dove, another historic Chamorro image. In the 1850s, Alfred Russel Wallace announced that Sulawesi was the bird capital of the world. It was the point of greatest diversity of bird species, which according to theory is also the point of greatest distribution. This is tantamount to saying that the Marianas fruit dove came from Sulawesi. The migration of the Tuan brought the fruit dove to the Marianas Islands along with musical and ancestral terms. Malay was the original language in the Malay archipelago during the early first millennium. Jamu is an indication of Indian influence in the archipelago around 700 CE, when Indonesian language emerged as a dialect of Old Malay. Chamorro words pertaining to musical sound and instruments were originally either Malay or Indonesian. Dandan, Lai, Mari, Magi, Silag, Bangsi, Tizen, Patsut, and Limbai. Onomatopoetic words such as zenzang don't follow phonological rules. Sounds of nature are the same everywhere. Therefore, words that imitate those sounds tend to be similar in languages from the same reason, such as in Indonesia. Zenzang is an example of that word. Many Chamorro clan and ancestral words have Malay Indonesian origins. To name a few, there are Sina, Matua, Kapua, Lati, Maga, Haga, Lahi, Atun, Funa, and Surahanu. Without further itemization, it's to say that critical Chamorro cultural terms are rooted in Indonesia during the Old Malay linguistic period or earlier. To summarize, the term Bijamu is a rare term in Chamorro. It is not in any Chamorro dictionary. It has only been preserved in this song. The lyrics of the song, with the mention of Bijamu, add to the betel nut tradition in the Marianas. Betel is symbolic for greeting a guest as a sign of approval, as a ritual part of life crisis ceremonies, as food for a soul voyage in the afterlife, as an indication of sexual desire, and now as part of herbal medicine, as indicated by the term jamu in the song. Given that the origin of jamu is within the time period of the second Sulawesi migration to the Marianas, the jamu tradition surely transferred to the Marianas with that migration. It must be assumed that jamu was once the Chamorro name for herbal medicine, and bijamu, as indicated in the song, which referred to its preparation, step by step, by the girl. Bijamu can be added to the other artifacts with Indonesian origins, such as the Lati floor supports, the fruit dove, sets of musical terms such as dandan and zemzan, and ancestral terms such as Sina. A word about the function of song in the human brain. The auditory cortex is the communication center of the brain that interconnects the other senses of touch, movement, time, sight, and sound. Song impacts all the senses simultaneously. It adds the human element to life and speaks to the social fabric of society. This song speaks to how Chamorros felt, what they valued, and how they were guided by their principles 1,000 to 1,300 years ago. Speaking of the ghost dance of the Sioux Indians at Wounded Knee, Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead said, "Cultures put forth their most important songs and dances so they will survive and perpetuate the essence of their culture." I suggest that the Matua song represents the essence of ancient Chamorro culture. In conclusion, the Indonesian Tuan brought the Bijamu practice and its song tradition to the Marianas, and this is evidenced by the term Bijamu in the song. There appears to be no other explanation. The status of the Matua and their role in Chamorro society matches the status of the Tuan in Indonesia. The cultural items that they brought with them distinguish them from the existing population in the Marianas and validate what various observers have said over centuries, that there were two different distinct levels of society in the Marianas, one superior to the other. One can conclude that the ancient Chamorro culture we know today, the culture celebrated in the images of Jacques Arago in the Freycinet report, formed as a result of the Indonesian influences brought by the Matua. The universal baptism brought by the missionaries flattened these distinctions. This paper underscores the current imperative to deconstruct colonial interpretations of the past in order to reveal the true nature of ancient Chamorro identity. As a footnote to this paper, the notation of the song can only be found in the original French edition of Freycinet's account of his voyage around the world. It was left out of Glenn Barrett's English translation of Freycinet. And that concludes my report. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clement. It was very, very interesting. We really appreciate it. Incredible tracing of connections between Indonesia and Chamorro culture through obviously song and language. Thank you. We have some questions. We have a lot of thank yous. We have awesome information. Thank you very much for your great research. That's from Larry and Cheryl Cunningham.
Oh, wonderful.
We have Melanie Henga, who will be presenting after you, saying thank you. Wow. She also mentioned that the song was saucy.
Well, that's in the lyrics. The way when you study something long enough, you see the connections with matrilineal culture and the pre-Christian nature of ancient people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, someone says gives new meaning to Pugwa imagery.
Very definitely. A lot of these influences that I'm talking about began in Indonesia. They were a result of Indian influence in Indonesia. So back, we're talking in 500, 600, 700, those years. And Indonesia was the mother. They split. Some influences came up to Guam in some cases, to the Marianas, and other words traveled into the Philippines. But it's Indonesia that is the source of a lot of these terms. And Sina specifically. It's from the southern coast of Borneo, part of the Malagasy culture. Those people left 500 CE for Malagasy.
Wow, really interesting. We have a question here. Will your report be available to the public? This is from Janice Tovis.
Yeah.
It will be.
I've been holding on to it too long. I'm afraid to let go.
Oh, okay. Okay. So do you plan on publishing it, or?
I would sure like to. But
Right.
there's more involved. There is, it crosses with archaeology.
Right.
There's much to be said about the origin of the Lati stone and the connection with rice, all of these ceremonial objects in Chamorro culture that have carried on until today. So, yeah. Okay.
And then Melanie says, please make it available to the public.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is the closest a man can come to having a baby.
And then Dr. Underwood is saying, great report, Mike. Are there other connections with Sulawesi which are apparent? It's his question to you.
Yeah, but at this point, my mind's going to turn into a mess of cobwebs. Yeah, okay, a big connection. In my master's thesis back in 2001, I mentioned the Wana, the tribe of the Celebes. And at that time, I had no idea what the significance was, except that I had, in my thesis, I had quoted Padre de Angelis and on this chant for a Chamorro soul voyage. And I cited as I say, the Wana tribe. But since then, I've found out that they are precisely from the same location that the migration would have stemmed from in Sulawesi, which is very interesting. So I've located that tribe, and they have the soul voyage tradition.
Wow, interesting.
So that
and then
this keeps on going.
Okay. Did you want to say anything else about those connections to Sulawesi that I didn't want to cut you off.
Well, I can answer anything I can. I was just looking at some of the questions.
So we have comments here. So Nina Peck was saying you can also try to see what the archaeological record shows with dental staining from betel nut and the timing of that appearance of betel nut staining.
Yeah, I think it coincides well. In regard to the betel nut, I think it implies that the Chamorros became an agricultural community.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't resolved, where does the fishing come in, except that there's water all around the islands there. How to reconcile that, how they, yeah. But the big thing is that the time period, the fact that Jamu was initiated by the Tuan, by the nobles, and in Indonesia, it's the same word exactly as in Chamorro, and they're the landowners and the slaveholders, and so the word jamu appeared at that time in the practice of the herbal medicine and grinding the betel nut into it. And so betel nut was part of this mixture. And that, as I say, is dated to what we would, to the beginning of the Lati period.
Sure. Right.
I mean, we had 800 years between 700 and 1500, which is the Lati period, as we've known it. So I think it kind of helps to pin down that as well. Whether, the tradition took 100 years or 200 years to develop and all, still, we can't refute the fact that the word is in this song.
Right.
It is like a little artifact. It's almost like a piece of clay or an archaeological artifact. It's there. Right. So, for a long time, what was I going to say? I got distracted by one of the messages. Yeah, for a long time, I was wrestling with, how did the missionaries find this piece of music? Was it given to them? Is it like Mickey Hart says, the Chamorros offered it up as representing the essence of their culture? Or did someone like Chief Apuro up in Litekzin, who was the poet? He was the only chief that was actually a poet, right? And did the Mari. And did he witness, or did the missionaries witness a battle between the Texan and one of the other villages up there? And was this used ceremonially in that context to signal the end of the war? So that's an area for more research.
Oh my gosh, definitely. So interesting. So we have a few minutes left for questions. If anyone has any other questions. Oh, now we only have 2 minutes remaining. I'm sure people are thinking and contemplating, and what
No, I
else
know,
can they ask?
because, bijamu equals or goes to tidzamu, you don't like. But the fact is that the meaning is very well pinned down. We've located the Austronesian, the Malayo-Polynesian meaning, the spelling, everything, the tradition. So it's a pretty tight concept.
Okay.
Doesn't leave much room for other interpretation. But it's
Okay.
fascinating, when you
Yes.
peel away the surface on some of these words, to wonder what traditions were actually called 800 or 1,000 years ago. How they began, how much of they had changed. Robert Blust, who I talked to on and off, has said, for example, that all Philippine words in the Chamorro language entered during the colonial period. All. So,
Wow.
but who can tell us about migration from the Philippines between 1,000 and 1,500? I don't think there's any record of anything like that.
Right, right.
So, it's a good limit. Parameter.
So we have one question here. Where can we find examples of the Wana tribe language? This is from Sean Paris.
That's a good question. Europeans do more research in Indonesia in this area than Americans have. And certainly it's going to be a European scholar that would have that. You can Google it. You can see, and get some leads there. There are definitely ethnomusicologists a lot of ethnomusicologists that are working in that area right now.
Okay.
So I'm sure.
I think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it should be easily found.
Okay. So our time is up, but I want to once again thank you, Mr. Clement, for just a really insightful and informative presentation. Just like with the first one with Lynn, I learned a great deal by listening to it. Thank you so much.